Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Zurianto, and right now I will tell you about gender roles in Australia. So, most Australians recognize that traditional gender stereotypes are limiting and harmful for boys and men, a new national survey has found. And perhaps contrary to popular belief, many Australians are receptive to messages about alternative, healthy versions of masculinity. The survey of 1,619 respondents, commissioned by the Victorian Health Promotion Foundation, sought to gauge people's attitudes towards man and masculinity. The sample was representative of the Australian population by age, state, and gender. Most people agreed on a few basic principles. First, traditional gender stereotypes are limiting and harmful for boys and men. Second, there is pressure on men to live up to traditional masculine stereotypes. Third, masculine expectations or outdated ideas of masculinity prevent men from living full lives. Fourth, boys need both women and men as role models rather than only men. And then we talk about masculinity. Masculinity is enforced more by men than women. The survey revealed a consistent gender gap in attitudes toward men's roles in society and perceptions of masculinity. Perhaps not surprisingly, the survey showed that compared to women, men are less supportive of gender equality, less likely to see sexism as extensive and systematic, and more likely to endorse men's dominance in relationships and families. Ironically, the male respondents in the survey were also less aware than the female respondents of the pressure. They are also less aware than female respondents of the pressure society places on men to conform to a certain ideal of masculinity. One of the most interesting findings was the attitudes of younger men. Young men aged 16 to 17 generally had more progressive attitudes than older men on traditional gender roles and how they are limiting, outdated, and contribute to poor health. Yet, they also had the highest levels of endorsement of men's use of violence, homophobia, breadwinner roles, and men's patriarchal power and control in relationships. Such regressive attitudes may reflect the intensified pressure they feel among male peers to prove themselves as men, sexist online culture, or other factors. Conversely, young women's attitudes were the most progressive of all respondents, creating a large gap between them and their male peers. And then we talk about gender norms are improving in Australia. The Vic Health survey complements a growing body of Australian research on people's attitudes towards man, masculinity, and gender. This includes a national survey of young Australian men's conformity to man box. Man box is a kind of stereotypical masculine attitudes. And then a national survey of Australians' attitudes to gender equality issues and a rolling national survey of awareness and attitudes regarding violence against women. Other data tells gender norms in Australia are changing, largely for the better. Attitudes improved in the 1980s and 1990s, and although progress stalled after this, there have been steady improvements in the past decade. Alright, and then we also talk about marriage in gender roles. In Indonesia, marriage, family, and kinship are highly valued. Some societies practice marriage within specific lines. and an individual cannot marry outside the lineage because the pattern of marriage is meant to promote the social structure in Indonesia. Sumatra, the east side of Indonesia, the people there can marry their distant cousins. In other parts, marriage patterns are determined by family social status, since marriage is considered means of moving up the social ladder in society. Also, there is polygamy. Polygamy is a practice where you are allowed to marry more than one woman. Commonly, it is limited to 4 women. And in Sumatra, in Sumatra, polygamy is highly practiced in the Muslim communities. Marriage between members of different ethnic groups is not regularly practiced, although it happens in the urban areas. In Australia, marriage is based on love and social status. Marriage is conducted according to one's religion beliefs. Cohabitation is also a common practice because people feel that as long as they love each other, they have a right to live together. While in Indonesia, love is not enough for you if you want to live together with your pair. If you want to live with somebody, you have to marry. You have to marry her or marry him first, and then you are allowed to live with him or her. It is not allowed in Indonesia if you live together with someone before marriage. And then back in Australia, one is eligible to marry whoever they choose, and family members cannot decide whom one has to marry, although they can give suggestions. Different in Indonesia, commonly, family has a role in deciding whom one has to marry. And then in Australia, polygamy is not common to be practiced. Okay, I think that's all about gender roles in Australia. I hope you can understand my explanation. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.